Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Dirt Talk with Drake York. And today I got National Sprint Car Hall of Famer Shane Carson on the line. Shane, it's good to have you, buddy.
Good to talk to you, Drake. How's things out west?
So far, so good. Just got some racing in last weekend at cycling. So whenever we ever get a chance to go out to cycling, always a good show.
I love going out there. I only made a couple of those big end of the year finale cage kart races that they had about 2,000 riders at. But yeah, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is out here. So Shane, we'll just dive right in. How were you first introduced to the sport of racing?
Well, I was born into it. My dad ran the track, so I was, 3 or 4 years old when he started running the Fairground Speedway in Oklahoma City. He was a city engineer that somebody talked him into helping out with the racetrack. He didn't know anything about racing, so he did it. And I got to be a fan. But at 8 years old, I started selling programs. So that was when I got to start going. That had been in the '60s. So I was a program seller. Went from that to a school board operator to a guy that helped with the track prep, and I turned into a racer myself.
Yeah, Shane, you turned about talking into a racer, and I believe you started out in modifieds, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. The modifieds that we had were kind of like sprint cars. They weren't like an IMCA modified. They were more like a 100-inch go champ car, really, is what they look like.
Okay.
And, the one I had was a 6-cylinder Chevy. That was the lower level of two classes. But we had 120 cars between two classes every Friday night. So I was kind of starting out at the height of that particular type of racing. You had to run good enough to get enough points to make a heat race. So I was in the B mains or the consies for 2 or 3 weeks. And finally, I got to get enough points where I could start a heat race. And then a few weeks later, I won my first main event.
Wow. So quick progression, I guess you could say.
Pretty much.
And I was looking around trying to get some information, and I stumbled across a sprint car or National Sprint Car Hall of Fame in a museum from your induction in 2007. It said your first race was on Friday the 13th. Is that true?
Yeah, that was probably true. I didn't remember that. I don't doubt that because we were running in Oklahoma City, and Friday the 13th. It was always a scary day for a lot of people, but I remember it as being a good day for me.
Did you have any second thoughts about trying to race for the first time on Friday the 13th?
No, I just, when you're a kid, you want to race no matter what. So I would have done anything to get out there.
And you talked about your modified days getting started. Your first big opportunity pretty much came in, I believe it was 1977. You got to drive the Nance aluminum car. Just talk about how cool was that for you?
Well, the very first Nance car I drove was a steel car, but it was probably built in the late 60s. And they bolted a cage on it. It was one of the cars that a lot of the drivers in this area drove through the years as the good guys, So when Laverne asked me to drive that first sprint car, he brought it in for a practice. He kind of had a play date set up at Dewey, Oklahoma, so I went and did that. The next night was a Tulsa Speedway Saturday night regular show. So he said, well, what if I bring it over there? Would you like to hot lap there? And I said, sure, we'll try that. Well, that was a big 5/8 flat track, bigger than Calistoga. And so he rolls it out after the last race. I won a modified race that night, and the super modified followed it. And after that, he rolled it out and said, okay, get in, we're going to push you off. I'm thinking, okay. I fired it up the night before, so I knew how to start it, but that's about all I knew how to do. And we roll it out there, and at that time, Tulsa Speedway was probably averaging, 10,000 people a night. And it was big, and I think 10,000 people stayed there to watch that little practice section. I'm pretty sure they figured I was going to crash, so they wanted to see it. But I actually did okay, and 3 days later was my very first race in Denver, Colorado, driving for Laverne. It was a 2-night show against all the other sprint car guys. So, he had confidence in me to go give it a shot, and I did that.
Yeah, very interesting. Right at that time, it seemed like sprint car racing was really evolving. A really interesting time for sprint car racing in that area, for sure.
Yeah. The technology was coming along. Nance was always cutting edge. She's kind of like some of the builders, so that they're always looking for something that's a little bit trickier and better. And after I've been running for Nance, I don't know, for probably 6-8 months, he said that he wanted me to drive this aluminum car. I already knew the aluminum car was fast because Fred Linder was driving it. Ohio, we ran different races around the country. And he ended up taking it to Manzanita at the end of '76, and they ran it. And a couple of things happened to it, along the way, and they said, man, this car probably isn't safe. So we said, now, build a steel frame car, and we'll give it to Fred, and he'll go racing with that. So Laverne still had that aluminum car, and in the back of his mind, he thought he wanted to run it, and he thought one day he goes, Shane will drive that car, he don't care. So I ended up in it, and we took it to Knoxville a couple of times, and we were fast. We were a quick time one night on a weekly show, and one of the track directors was also a racer prior to that. He was one of those guys that looked out for the guys coming up. Probably a good thing. And he comes over and he says, I know you're fast time, but we just decided this car is illegal. and me and Laverne were looking at each other, and Laverne was like, what'd he say? I said, well, he said that car was illegal, but we got to take it home. And Laverne goes, well, we're not too racing it yet. And I said, well, they just disqualified me.
Wow.
He said, well, that's crazy. So we took it home, built the steel frame, came back for the Knoxville Nationals a month later, and was leading the non-qualifiers feature, the Friday night race, leading the main event, blew the motor, and that was kind of what put me out of the driving for Nance business, because it took him forever to get a motor, whatever we needed. It was like he had the business going. He didn't have a lot of time to devote to his own car. So whenever we had something happen, we were always like the last guy to get it fixed. So we came back to Dallas or to Wichita after that particular event at Knoxville in August. He said, "Yeah, I think I'm done for a while." So I'm back in my 6-cylinder, running Tulsa Speedway every Saturday night until I rounded up another sprint car to drive later on, which I did. But it took a while, and it was a good experience running with Nance, because when you're running for one of the builders, you got all the latest stuff, and that was a good time for me.
Yeah, for sure. When you do have a factory person, I mean, I look at all the QRC guys out here. They always have the latest and greatest because they are a factory team, and essentially, you were pretty much a factory team or factory driver back then.
Yeah, I was. When I got out of that car, I got in with another builder, which was the Gambler company, but it wasn't Gambler yet. It was just starting. And we took it to Florida, and we ran a couple of races, and that ended up being the very first Gambler car.
Wow.
So I actually drove for him. I drove for Gambler, I drove for Nance, and I drove for one of J&J's cars. And then later on, Gambler built a 100-inch dirt champ car, and they hadn't built any of those yet. They sent it to me, and they said they wanted me to race it against the locals here that ran the 100-inch class. And they were averaging 50 or 60 cars a night. And we could go and run that same car with the Silver Crown cars on certain tracks, because they wouldn't let you go if you didn't have a 75-gallon fuel tank, because you had to run a 100-mile race. But they were just kind of starting to dabble around and check out some half-mile tracks and see if they could run the USAC series on a shorter track and shorter race, and it actually worked out well. So Gambler started building those cars and allowed me to have one of them. So basically, I was back in another house car here in Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, all the races that we ran, and we ended up winning the championship that first year in that car. That was NCRA.
Oh yeah, gotcha. And you talk about USAC and NCRA. I was talking with my dad a little bit, what we should ask you, and he mentioned the USAC NCRA challenge races. So for some people that don't know, just talk about what those were and how cool they were.
Well, they got with USAC. The promoter at that time, a guy named Larry Hill, he was from Oklahoma City, and he ran the track weekly. And he wanted to put a challenge race together with NCRA and USAC. NCRA cars were the one, like I had, smaller fuel tank, same car. Like our cars were 100-inch wheelbase, their cars were 96. So they were a little bit shorter. The engine setback was better for them than us. But they thought that the offset with the smaller tank would kind of make them even. So they let us run together. We had a couple of races in Florida, and we had 4 of them in Oklahoma City, I think, or maybe 3. But, the very first one they did was won by a guy named Herb Copeland, and he was driving one of Manson's 100-inch cars. The second one was won by Ricky Hood, who was driving for the Black Fortune 39 car, which is a pretty famous Champion car. The third one we won was the Gambler car that CK Spurlock loaned me for that season. So, and that was the end of it. They just ran 3 of them, but those cars, they would bring all the USAC guys. There were probably 30 or 40 of them, and then we had 30 or 40 in CRA cars. So there was a 60, 70 car field. You know, we never time trialed. They always did. So we qualified to run transfer heat races and whatever. And we kept down to the main events, and they were 50 laps. And that particular the race that I won, I only ran 2 of them. The first one I ran second the year before, and they disqualified me over. They said I had an illegal bleeder valve in the right rear, which the day before they told me was fine as long as I had a screw in it. So they changed the rule after we run second. And then the following year, you know, I won it with the Gambler house car. That would have been 1986. And when they came out for the Victory Lane presentation, I said, I'm not even going to get any of these awards until you weigh the car, you check it over, you make sure it's legal, and then I'll take all the, you know, the accolades of winning. And they did that. They ran through the whole routine. They picked it up with a big scale. It looked like a scale like you pick up a weigh a fish. Had a hook on each end, and they hooked it to the roll cage and picked it up with a wrecker. And that thing spun up there, and it was within, you know, 5,800 pounds heavier than it should have been. So I was good to go.
Wow.
I just didn't want to DQ me after they'd already given me the, you know, the win. So that was kind of a heavy hit for the USAC guys. Vogler was in it. Rich and I got into a little altercation during the race. So being able to win that race was pretty big for, you know, for me and for us as a series against them. You know, it became a big rivalry, really. And that was a neat one to win. It was on my birthday, too, in 1986.
Wow. So you said there was only 4 races for the USAC NCRA Challenger Series?
I think it was 3 in Oklahoma City, and I think they had a couple of them in Florida at the Florida Fairgrounds.
Yep.
So there might have been 5 or 6 of them total.
Okay. Yeah, pretty neat deal as you described. But going back on the top of car owners in 1978, I believe the year was, got the opportunity to drive for Bob Trossel, another National Sprint Car Hall of Famer, and you won the championship at Knoxville out that year. Talk about not only winning a championship at Knoxville, but racing for a guy like Bob Trossel.
Well, there it is again. I was driving for the factory. You know, I got in a car that was established as a winning car. Doug Wolfgang won a lot of races with it the year before. Won the national title, you know, the year before, the Nationals. He didn't win the championship because they were running everywhere, but he won the Nationals with it. Won 45 features, I believe, that season. I had won any. And, you know, we would go down there and I had to move to Iowa. Well, first off, we went to Florida. There was about an 8 or 10 race series down there, and they told me that was my audition. They said, okay, we're going to take you to Florida and see how you do, and if you do okay, and we'll talk about you running the car for the season. So I go down to Florida, and I'd never run a lot of these tracks anyway, and I'm trying to get up to speed. I never won, but I was always consistent. I didn't crash very much. And when it was all said and done, he said, okay, well, you're on for the year. You need to relocate. I'd never left Oklahoma City as far as, you know, going somewhere to live. You know, that's a pretty big deal. I lived at my mom and dad's house. So I had to, you know, kind of get everything loaded up, go to Iowa, and got an apartment and started running Knoxville Weekly. We won 25 features that year and the championship in about 3 different series. You know, the NCA, Knoxville season title. We had won the Iowa Nebraska championship. So that was a great year for me, and I learned a lot in a hurry.
You said 25 wins in one season?
Yes.
Wow.
Of course, see, that was still half of what Whoopi won.
Really?
You know, a little over half, but yeah. So I mean, I thought I did great. At the end of the year, they said, "Well, you're out. Whoopi's back in."
Wow.
that was a tough one.
25 wins and you didn't even get to keep the ride.
Yeah.
Wow. But we keep talking about all of your special accomplishments in sprint car racing. You won the first ever Kings Royal, which has now evolved into probably one of the biggest sprint car races in the world, next to the Knoxville Nationals. Just talk about that experience of not only running Eldora but winning the first ever Kings Royal.
Well, it wasn't the Kings Royal. It was the 78 season. The finale was at Eldora. It paid $10,000 to win. Now back then, everything paid $2,000 to win. Knoxville Nationals only paid like $3,000 or $4,000 to win. So the biggest races, were $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to win. And we won that finale at Eldora. It was in October of 1978, and you had that was the final World Outlaw Point race, and it was going to pay $10,000 to win. Well, shoot, there was 100-something cars showed up. So it was a big one-day show. It all happened on Sunday. I ended up having to drive with the Nichols brothers because this was after, Bobby told me I was out, Woody was in. So I went to Eldora anyway and drove for the Nichols brothers and ended up winning that race, that $10,000 win. And that was 6 years before the Kings Royal. Now, the first Kings Royal was in '84. And we came very close to winning that one also. I was driving for a drag racer named Richard Park and ended up starting mid-pack and run right up on Steve on the last lap to the checker. But that was a huge drop. It was 50,000 to win, but it was only 8,000 per second.
Wow.
That's what my owner said. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about a drop in pay. And, you talk about these outlaw races paying $2,000 again. I don't think some people can even fathom an outlaw race paying that much anymore to win.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. 2,000 to win was an outlaw, sanctioned event. That's kind of what that deal was, where everybody that was racing could race for 2,000 to win. And that was the deal because we were running, weekly shows at Knoxville were 750 to 1,000 to win. So that was big money at that time.
Yeah, and again, talking about all these special moments, not only in your career, but in sprint car history. How special has it been for you to, kind of since the beginning of the Outlaws, just, not only race, but stand back and watch it evolve?
Well, there was a time when we all went to the house for that very first race in Dallas, Texas, at the Devil's Bowl. And, Ted had been doing some special events in 77, 78, finally got together and put together a schedule. And they said, okay, we're going to go to the Devil's Bowl March 1978. So, it's an iffy weather deal, but everybody thought, well, we better go because if we don't go, there might not be a second World Outlaw show. So, we all went. There was 93 cars there that first race. It was a 3-day show. It was won by Jimmy Boyd.
Yeah.
So that was a huge deal for Jimmy and the McRae team and Kenny Woodruff and all those guys. And we were there for that. Of course, I didn't get to follow the full season because I was running Knoxville weekly, but every time we had a chance, we'd go run with the Outlaws and try to be competitive with them. That wasn't easy. You had Kinzer and Wolfie and Sammy and all the good guys were running, so you had to be on the hammer to run with those guys.
Yeah, and you mentioned when the Outlaws first came around, you didn't run the full tour, but I believe in the early 80s, you ran the full schedule 3 times. What was the schedule like then, and how tough was it to make all the races as well? Would you say it was harder then compared to now?
Well, I think now, because the money's up, and of course it's more expensive to race too, but the money's up and they've got a lot of sponsorship. We didn't have anything like that. So the years I ran full time with them in '82 and '83, and those 2 seasons we finished third in points and fifth in points. So you had to make every show. You had to be consistent. Couldn't crash a lot. We didn't have very many spares, and we ran both of those seasons with one car, and the whole season with one chassis. That was 90-something races. So we had 3 engines in '83. One would be in the shop. We got one in the trailer, one in the car. So we would alternate between. In '82, the year before, we only had 2 engines. So we had to make that work. A lot of times you had them out there working on them, rebuilding them. So that in a week, when you had a week off, either in Ohio or Iowa or wherever, you had to make them with us.
Yeah, for sure. So Yeah, crazy that you guys can make it through the year with one car. Like sometimes I see outlaw teams, almost a complete car still sitting in the trailer in just a chassis. Also, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't even think of, I mean, yes, there's guys that can, make a car last as long as possible, but if you had a bad weekend, in your case, if you raced on Friday and Saturday and crashed both nights, you could have been done for the season.
Yeah, yeah, we were very lucky. Fortunate that didn't happen. But and we've seen other guys that came in and were running good, and that would happen to them. They'd have to drop off the tour. So it was an accomplishment in itself just to make them all, and then to be competitive on top of that. Yeah, that was a pretty big thing for us. I had kind of a rotating crew. I had two or three guys that would help me, but none of them could be out there all the time. So I'd be driving most of the time to and from. And we had guys that would come from Oklahoma City to meet us, in Colorado or wherever we were headed, to kind of swap out between guys. You didn't have the salaried employees like you have now. Those guys were just running to be out there. You keep them going and send them home with a little money if it was available.
And Shane, you talked about your dad earlier, how he promoted races in Oklahoma. You actually got to try your hand at promoting races a few times, and you actually raced in at least two of them, I got to say, that you promoted. Talk about not only how hard it is to promote a race, but then to promote it and be racing the same night.
Yeah, that's very challenging, I can tell you that. And I know that Brad Sweet does it. I know Brad Doty, had that race. Well, he has that race now because it's named after him in his career. But it's challenging to be the promoter and actually race in the event. That didn't happen very much back then. I started doing that in 1980, and I ran them until 2002. So for 22 years, I did, two outlaw shows a year. We'd have a spring show and a summer show. And probably the first 4 or 5 years I ran them, because I had to, for one thing. I was running for the points. But then after about 5 years or 6 or 8 years, I quit doing it because it was so much of a challenge to actually compete in the race you were trying to promote. I had a situation come up one time. I was running around the track. We were qualifying. I come off, took the checkers, and we were exiting the track. And I was going around we had a kind of a return road, and I see the guy jump the fence. And I'm heading back to the fence. I just stopped right there. I started yelling at this guy, and he jumped back over the fence.
Wow.
You can't be doing that. I was thinking, I need to really be concentrating on racing. But that just made me mad. That guy jumped. I probably knew him. And I started yelling at him. Made him get back over the fence.
Wow. I don't think Brad Sweet deals with that when he promotes a race.
No, probably not. But that's a challenge to do it. Now those outlaw shows initially were, the purse was $12,000. That was the total purse in 1980. And now the purse is $50,000. The insurance, my first show cost me about $6,000. Now it's about $4,000. $600. So things have went up, and it's hard to, if you don't have a facility, like our set seat 8,600 people. Fairground Speedway did. It was really big. It was a perfect layout. You pit on the outside. It was all asphalt. It was a really nice layout, but they elected to tear that facility down and make a parking lot out of it.
Yeah.
So, it's really sad. I try not to go by the fairgrounds anymore. It just makes me feel bad because there was so many good memories and such good racing there, and now we don't have that. I just can't handle it.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the same with Ascot too. I finally actually last year finally got to go to where Ascot was, and I mean, I've never been to Ascot, so I can't really talk about memories I've had there. But like you kind of get goosebumps, like where the parking lot is at Ascot now. I'm sure you know this, but there's a hotel right there, and they still have the pit road. I kind of, not gonna lie, got a little chicken skin going to where the pit gate used to be.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I drove for Agajanian for years. That was my ride in California. So, I followed that through the years. They shut it down in 1990, and I was still running his car when I go out west, in the late 80s. So I knew how hard it was for them to shut it down and how they feel about it now. Because I still talk to those guys, and it's a tough one. They know how I feel about it too here.
Oh yeah, for sure. A lot of people miss it. But while we're talking about Ascot, like you mentioned, you drove for the Academias. That was like your West Coast ride. How special was it to not only race for them, as a driver, but get a race at Ascot itself?
Oh, it was really cool. I mean, it was so different than racing around here, just because of where it was. It's right in the middle of millions of people. And I'm thinking, I can't believe they get away with this. So we did the racing there. We had, you look at all the cars, and I'm thinking they're not going to race that car. It's way too pretty. But our cars would roll in, they would racked out, taped up, and sometimes before I run for Aggie, or the times I did not run for Aggie, we take our own car. And I just thought, those cars are just too pretty to race. But they were pretty, but they were also fast. So you had to be on the hammer to run with those guys. And they had a whole different way of racing. The track was so flat, the corners were so tight. They would turn them sideways. At the flag stand, the first time I was out there, and I was running Aggie's car, and I was following Bubby, or I know it was might have been Dean Thompson down the front straightaway. And about the time when I'm still on the hammer, he lifts and turns it sideways. I ran over him. If you laugh, figure out that's how you have to do it, because you have to scrub a bunch of speed to keep the tires digging to keep you out of the wall. So I figured it out real quick, and learned how to race like they did. I don't think I was ever as good, but I could run with them. One of the first big races I ran Aggie's car was the Summer Nationals, and I ran third. And they always made fun of that car being in the penalty box. I never did. I always liked that car, and it fit the program pretty well. It was stable and a little bit heavier, but it was a good car. It was a Grand King, I believe.
So I've heard stories before from people that come from outside of California, and I want to see if this was true for you. I think it was the We Are Dirt documentary that Dirt Co. Media House made a couple years ago.
Right. Yeah.
They talked about how people, out east didn't have mud pack, and when they'd show up to California, mostly Ascot, they'd have to mud pack, and they're like, "Well, what's mud pack?" Was that kind of the same thing for you?
Oh yeah, we did. Of course, that was one of the things Ted. Yeah, Ted would try to protect his racers, so that was one thing he didn't want us doing. He didn't want us out there wearing out our cars, getting them all muddy. So he would just go into a facility and say, "Yeah, well, we're not gonna wheel pack here." But you know what? When we went to Ascot, everybody wheel pack. That was just the way it was done. So we learned a lot about how they did things, and then we sometimes tried to make it conform to our program, and it didn't always work.
Yeah, for sure. And whenever I see you out here in California, you're always hanging around Jimmy Oskey. Just wanted to talk to you about him. Obviously Jimmy, if you've ever met him, he's pretty cool guy. One of the more established drivers from back in your time, Shane, from California. Did you meet him like when you initially came out to Ascot, or did you meet him like when you come back to California every now and then?
No, I met him the first race I was out there. I thought that's a strange looking dude. He got the big afro. Of course, I had one going on too, but wasn't big six. But he was out there. I remember one time he was out there playing catch with somebody down in turn one. They had a mitt and a baseball. They were throwing it back and forth, and the lane was fixing to start. I said, "This guy's really relaxed. Apparently, he doesn't get too wound up. We were used to racing with Wolfie and Sammy and Steve and those guys. They were very focused. They didn't. You couldn't even talk to them hardly. And this guy's out here playing baseball. Before they called for the line. So it was a little bit of a shock to get to know him later and learn how he is. He's pretty philosophical. He's always got a theory and a funny thing to say. And I always like talking to him. I usually learn something from him every time I go to California.
Yeah, and for those people that don't know and maybe heard stories of Jimmy Oskey, this is the guy that flipped through the billboard at Ascot. Were you there that night, Shane, when he flipped through the billboard and hit somebody's van?
No, I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. Ascot was crazy.
You know what was funny about that? The Acadians were always a family operation. So the oldest son's Kerry. He's a lawyer. He does a bunch of marketing things for race teams and manages a lot of the high-end drivers. The next in line is Jay. Jay was the announcer at Ascot. So back when they were kids, Jay would he was kind of like starting out selling probably doing at the concessions and selling programs like me. But he ended up being the announcer for a while. And one of those times that you're talking about was when Oski flipped through the billboards, landed somewhere. Jadian ran all the way to the scene of the crash and, wanted to interview me. and he's huffing and puffing when he gets there, and Oski is cool as always. He's very cool. he said, Jimmy, he's huffing and puffing. He goes, can you talk to us? Jimmy's like, looks at him, I can talk a lot better than you can. You need to go lay down. So, yeah, he always had a line to come back with. He still does that today.
Yeah, Jimmy's a fun guy. And you talk about coming to California for a couple races a year. Yeah, my mom always likes it when you come out here. But you come out.
Great time.
Yeah, you come out to Calistoga and Paris every now and then. How much do you enjoy those trips out here to California to see some non-wing racing?
Oh, I like it a lot. The one I just went to at Paris was the Outlaw non-wing CRA race. There was a doubleheader with the Outlaws and the non-wing. And both of those races were good. They had a really big crowd. The people were into it. I like to see that. I like to see where they can, experience both types of racing on the same night. I know it's expensive to do that because each division has to have pretty good purse to get a car count and that sort of thing. But the Calistoga event, it's such an event. It becomes more than just a race like you see around the country. It's a deal. It's a happening. It's got a lot of things to go on with. It's got the banquet on Friday. It's got the wine tasting on Saturday. It's got the just everything that goes on around it. And that's why I really like coming to it. I tell people about it. I said, you have to go out and try that. Because it'll make your events more of a must-go-to event. And I sometimes get that done here locally. Sometimes I can get the people around here to do things around stuff like that. And I feel like if I can bring that back to them and they'll listen. Oski says nobody listens to me, but I don't think he's right.
Yeah, so my mom, who's been sitting here stalking us for the past however long we've been here, she handed me a note. So some people may know Jimmy Oski likes to go out line dancing every now and then. Has he ever taken you out to go line dancing or something like that? Always.
Yes. Now, the last time we were out there, we would go to this place in Anaheim called The Ranch. It's a really ritzy, high-end country dance place. So, everybody knows the routine. And Oski's like an instructor. He's like a motivator, instructor type. He goes out and he finds the rookies and works with them. And what he has me do, he says that I'm the spotter. He goes, I want you to be the spotter. And if you see somebody that I need to go dance with, you can tell me where they're at. Okay. So he comes over the other day and I said, turn 3 second row outside. And he looks over there and he goes, that one? I said, yeah, that one right there. He goes and gets her. And he takes her out. They do 2-3 songs and she comes back over. She said, so you're the spotter. I said, well, yeah, I'm the spotter. She goes, do you dance? I said, no, they don't let me dance. I'm just a spotter. It was okay. But yeah, she was really good and learned. And that's what they talk about. I hear them talking amongst themselves, and they'll say, oh, that Jimmy guy, he's got the moves.
It's like Jagger.
True story.
All right. Oh, man, I think that's the perfect spot to end. Thank you, Shane. By the way, Shane's joining us from Oklahoma today, so we really appreciate that. What?
Is he flooding?
Oh, yeah. You guys aren't flooding out there, are you? I've seen some rain.
It's very close. It's very close, Julie. We got 3.5 inches last night. The tornadoes are whizzing around us. Nothing right this minute, but yeah, it's not good. It's not the best time to be in Oklahoma.
All right. Well, we'll keep you guys in our thoughts, and hopefully the weather improves out there, not only so you guys can be safe, but also you guys can get some racing out there.
Well, I hope so too, Greg. I appreciate you calling me on this. It's neat to visit about things that have happened here, because promoting the future by preserving the past is one of the things I like to do.
Oh, yeah, that's the motto of the NCRA, the club we have out here on the West Coast, that pretty much the same phrase, preserving the past so we could protect the future.
There you go. Same idea. I stole it from Knoxville, the whole thing.
Well, Shane, thank you. thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you out at Calistoga soon.
Looking forward to it, guys. Thank you.
All right, that was Shane Carson, National Sprint Car Hall of Fame inductee. Once again, joining us from Oklahoma. I think that's the farthest we've ever had somebody interview. I think pretty much shatters Carson Hall's record of Grass Valley. That we've had somebody join us. Obviously, with this new thing we're trying out, it gives us this opportunity to talk to people that aren't in Chico. Like the past 3 shows we've done, now including this one. Dominic Gordon was in Clovis while we were doing the interview. Carson Hall was getting ready to go to work in Grass Valley when we did his interview. So this is really neat. We're kind of hoping to do this type of stuff in the future, long distance calls, because obviously Shane, he's out here every now and then, but if like right now, if we wanted to talk to him, it'd have to be through the phone. So once again, just wanted to thank Shane Carson for his time. But before we go, just like to talk about a very special weekend this weekend. I said that twice. Anyway, the Dave Bradway Jr. Memorial this weekend, the 30th annual at the Silver Dollar Speedway. Also, the Bill Brownell Memorial is on Friday, so you got 2 of the biggest wing sprint car races of the season at Silver Dollar Speedway. The Brownell Memorial is Friday night, while the Dave Bradway Jr. is Saturday night. The Brownell will be a non-point show, and it's 410s, by the way, also. So a double 410 weekend, and of course, as always, the Dave Bradway Jr. Memorial, sanctioned by the King of the West Narc Fujitsu Racing Series. And I've been doing some binge watching of some old Bradway footage. We're going to try to put something up on Facebook, hopefully later tonight, of the past 10 Dave Bradway Jr. Memorials. Mike Doyle and Dean Mills have been helping us preserve the Dave Bradway Jr. Memorial and all the memories that come with it through the past couple of years on YouTube. Of course, Dean Mills has also got his website that we're currently subscribed to, and I watch it about every day. It's millsvideo.tv. That's not a paid promotion. That is just good quality video. But that is all we have for this weekend for Dirt Talk with Drake York. Of course, if you're in Chico, Friday, Saturday, Silver Dollar Speedway, you got to be there for the Bill Brownell Memorial. That was a good race last year. Really liked the Bill Brownell Memorial as well as the Dave Bradway Jr. Memorial. Of course, during the day, I believe around noon on Saturday, the NCRA is going to have their annual Hall of Fame inductions with a luncheon. So that is an event, I strongly recommend you to go to. I hosted that event last year, was the MC for that, and I've done both, been in the crowd for it and emceed it, and either way, I love that event. The NCRA, me and Shane Carson were just talking about preserving the past so we can, protect the future too. And that is what the NCRA does. Lloyd Burton had this dream. If you don't know about the NCRA, had this dream right before he passed that, to have this organization that does, keep the past still alive, and they've done a great job with it. They've got a trailer full of racing memories. I'm actually in that trailer. I hosted the Bradway luncheon last year, as I mentioned, and they have a photo of me in the trailer. So I'm actually really excited to go see that picture again because, both those events last year, I hosted their Anderson luncheon too. Both those events were 2 of my favorite things I did all year, really. And Mary Burton still keeping Lloyd's dream alive. And Dan Miller, my good buddy, will be hosting that as well. So really excited to see Dan back hosting these luncheons. He's usually the guy that does it, but I was fortunate enough to fill in for him last year. Dan, of course, very, very talented guy. Always enjoy seeing him at the racetrack. So if you're in Chico Saturday morning at noon, highly recommend you head over to the Silver Dollar Speedway and grab some lunch and hear a lot of good stories. Free lunch too. Gotta love free food. So, hear some stories, see people get inducted to the Hall of Fame. In fact, the Dragon from Galt, Leroy Van Conant, got inducted last year. I'm not 100% sure who the inductees are this year, but no matter who's going in, it's going to be a good show. So we got those 3 events, Friday and Saturday. Once again, Friday is the Bill Brownell Memorial, Wing 410 sprint cars, along with other divisions. Then Saturday morning at noon, the NCRA luncheon. And then, of course, the headliner of the weekend, the 30th annual Dave Bradway Jr. Memorial. Hope to see you at all those events this weekend. And if you aren't, believe Dean Mills is going to be streaming all two of the events, the two on-track events, on Speed Shift TV. But that's all I got to say for this week. Once again, I want to thank Shane Carson for joining us today, and we'll see you next time here on Dirt Talk with Drake York.